morning, and welcome to Wednesdays with Darren and Cindy, where we bring you real conversation about things that affect our lives and the community. My name is Cindy Ward,
And my name is Darren Powell.
and we are going to be your host for our podcast.
Leaning into discomfort well is uncomfortable. This may mean staying quiet even when every urge in your body is telling you to feel that awkward silence. This may mean having a tough conversation with your partner rather than avoiding it. It may mean simply allowing yourself space to feel your feelings rather than trying to deny or hide them.
Well, into discomfort can open us up to things that we didn't know were possible. And by running from or reacting against discomfort, we often create a picture in our head of how horrible it'll be, like, I'll get rejected, or it'll be awkward, or she'll think less of me, or he'll think less of me, something like that. But starting the practice of leaning into discomfort can show us how not so scary certain things can be after all. And through it, and though it is counterintuitive, leaning into discomfort can allow us to grow personally and gain confidence and strengthen our relationships. So that leads us to today. We have with us a guest. So, can you introduce yourself and tell the listeners a little about your background?
Hi, everyone. This is Marissa Ayag-Garcia. I'm a clinical social worker. I've been practicing social work for over 30 years, and I've been doing therapy and working with all kinds of populations for, like I said, 30 years. So I'm so happy to be here. And currently, I am the Family Advocacy Program Manager here at Camp Sama.
Hmm.
Wow, this is kind of a different concept for a lot of people, but I think it'd probably get real quick. But can you just talk about the concept of leaning into discomfort?
Sure. I'm uncomfortable now. I'm in the state of discomfort. I feel my nerves, my nervous system's definitely triggered right now because I don't like public speaking. So I'm in a state of discomfort. I know that. The concept is no matter what that feeling, that discomfort might be, is to, forge through. And that's just simply, I think, physiologically what happens. But in reality, it really is being aware of what's going on and using all of the resources that you might have as an individual to find resolve. And to do that, one must find the answers and grow from it. So you gotta get out of the discomfort to find that peace and calm, just like what I'm doing today.
That's good.
But Marissa, tell us, why is leaning into discomfort vital to the healing and the growth process? A lot of times we don't understand that this uncomfortable feeling is really something good for us in the end.
Yeah.
So why is it? Why is that leaning into discomfort vital for the healing and the growth?
Yeah, you talked about it earlier in your introduction, Cindy, about it's counterintuitive. So why is that vital, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is vital because if we stay in the state of comfort where we are, I would love that, Actually, in my personal life, I've had a really good life. I've been very protected by my single parent. And so she put me in this like a beautiful, comfortable, warm, um, rich environment. And I thrived in that. And I could stay in that environment and that on that couch forever. And I even find, I'm in a 36 some 7-year marriage, having married my first boyfriend. I mean, that's the kind of comfort level I am, live 5 minutes away from my work, 5 miles from my university, like really in that comfort zone. But to stay in that state, I realize that I'm not going to change. I'm not going to grow. I'm not really going to use my God-given talents or the energies or everything that God has given me, or this universe has given me, if I don't move forward and and test something out
Good.
and move towards the discomfort. It is vital because that is where I find myself. An example is coming here. Moving, like I said, I lived, in Oahu, Honolulu, within a 10-mile radius of everything, comfortable. Having to move here to Camp Sama for the first time, taking an overseas assignment, was a huge deal for me. And so I find myself introducing myself to new things, doing different activities, discovering the special time in my marriage, and my professionalism. It has really been a growing experience. It is vital for us because it really does help us grow spiritually, physically, emotionally, and socially.
Nice, nice. A big part of leaning into discomfort, I would say, is kind of tapping into your vulnerabilities. And I think a lot of people try to hide from their vulnerabilities. And so, what would you say to the person that is uncomfortable with showing their vulnerabilities?
Oh my gosh, that's the biggest fear, as you mentioned earlier, Darren. About if paraphrasing that, if I don't do right, I could be rejected. And that's the fear. Is we are protecting ourselves, and if I show my vulnerability, all that I got, I am now open for attack everywhere. That's
true.
the fear in our minds, right? But for someone who is showing their vulnerability, to me, shows great courage. And for someone who says, hey, I'm going through this difficult time, tells me not only that they are courageous, but they're aware of what's going on. And that's incredible, that they have insight. And also, when they're able to say, this is me, what I'm going through, tells me, and that I'm in the state of discomfort, I'm vulnerable, that it tells me they have good ego strength. They're moving forward, they know themselves really well, and there's strength and courage there. So I just say tap into that courage.
What does ego strength mean?
Ego strength is great question. It's really about what you think about yourself, the core of who you are. And it's not just self-esteem, it's really tapping into um, your strengths and believing in yourself and knowing your place in the world. So understanding yourself.
So it's pretty much taking your self-esteem to another level.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really, being very in tune with who self is.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Right, Cindy.
What's the best way to practice leaning into uncomfortable situations? How do you practice that? Honestly, if I was a person, I would not want to practice it. You remember when you were young, your mom would say, don't ask for patience because, you're going to get tested in a way you don't want to. So how do you practice leaning into uncomfortable situations?
Right. I think it's different for everyone. But when you are in that state of discomfort and when it's so raw and feeling vulnerable, how do you make the step, right? And so I think once you know what's going on with you, being self-aware, then you can wisdom comes to us too. Like, how do I, get through this? There is wisdom in all of us that we need to harness. And one of the thing to do is it's different, but it's a time to talk to somebody. It's a time to process with someone. Hey, I'm going through this. I don't know what to do, or I just don't want to do that. It's just really a time to process it. Talk to someone, get help. But because sometimes we can't do it on our own, finding that one step, and then the wisdom will come, and that's when we take that one baby step at a time.
Right.
But it's different for everyone. And once you're self-aware, I think you can reach out.
That's good.
Okay. Wow, I'm gonna throw something in there just on the side because I just thought about this because I'm I wouldn't say I'm an avid runner, but I like to run. And I can remember the first time I said I made a goal and I said I was gonna run a half marathon. And it seemed so. I had never run over a mile and a half. That's what they required us to do in the military.
Wow.
And I just got up and I said, "Man, I want to do this." But it was such a challenge for me because again, I wasn't sure of myself. Like, could I actually do this? That's like a long time. That's like 2 hours plus running, and things like that. And it was so uncomfortable. And so when you talk about it, uncomfortable physical situations. You know, we're getting ready to get into this new physical thing with the civilians and things like that. And can you talk a little bit about that?
Gosh, about can I
Just
go further?
like just
You
challenging
know,
yourself in the physical realm. A lot of times, you know, again, some people might want to lose weight or something, you know, just you know, and that those type of things. And it's just kind of one of those things where I've never really seen this weight, you know, in my adult life, you know, but I want to get past the uncomfortableness of trying to just avoid the reality of it would be a lot nicer, a lot healthier to be, you know, or whatever the case, depending
I
on the
love
person.
that you're putting this in application because
Yeah.
those are things that are scary to people. I know someone who just getting on the scale is terrifying for them. And so that deters them from taking the next step of getting on the treadmill, for instance, or taking the mile. So that is so scary. I think when I speak about that family member of mine who's afraid to go on the scale and seeing the numbers is all in her head, right? The reality, she has really put a reality in her head that I am a failure, you know, I am unattractive, and I'm never going to make that mile and a half and now 3 miles. That's just unrealistic to her. But it's all in her head, right? So how do we move her out of it? That no, you know, 1 block is great, you know, 50 steps is great for you, you know. How do we get her out of that? And I really feel as a community being aware of being sensitive for everyone, right, of people around us, and being really encouraging and supportive as a community. I really think we can do it that way and stop looking at the end goal so much, you know, like I want to, you know, lose the 10 pounds, or I want to do, you know, the marathon. That's not looking, you know, it's not so much a destination. That's again about leaning into discomfort. We're not looking for the destination, we're looking for the journey of growth. And so that would be what I'd say, you know, to someone who is considering that it's the journey. It's every step, every baby step
Nice.
is growth provoking.
That's so good.
That's
so
true.
good.
That's true. That is very, very true. In the military culture, right? And we're here on a military base, and so we have military all around us. In the military culture, soldiers are trained to suck it up and move on. You know, what would you say to that person that might be suppressing and avoiding uncomfortable situations because showing vulnerabilities can be looked as a weakness? What would you say to that?
That's so hard when the entire environment, culture, society goes against, really agrees with your comfort zone and not to, you know, speak up. So there's no support in the culture towards really speaking up and expressing what's going on with you and sharing your vulnerability. But um, I am a change maker. I came to this profession, and the definition of social work is I'm a change agent. So everything I do is to help someone make a little bit of a change towards better. And I also learned that there is a Chinese proverb about what a crisis means. So people go through crisis, you know, in my work all the time. And what we say is a crisis, actually, in this Chinese proverb means opportunity. The word for crisis means opportunity, right, Darren? That it's when there is a crisis, it opens this opportunity for change and good and cleansing and problem solving. And so, what I say to someone who is afraid or does not want to feel vulnerable to express what's going on, to get help, is to remember that a crisis is also an opportunity for that change.
That's a good way of looking at it. I like that outlook.
Well, we kind of talked about this, but I'll ask you again. Do you have any real world examples of leaning into discomfort? We talked about a few, but maybe some more, you know, that you would like to share with our listeners.
Yeah, I think I shared with you, you know, my personal experience coming here, and that was uncomfortable. Public speaking is terrifying for me. But the other thing is, I've watched a lot of people in my family do the difficult thing, take the long journey. I'm an immigrant, a first generation immigrant from the Philippines. My mom in the 70s migrated to the United States. So she was in her, I think, early 30s when she left her home and in the Philippines and migrated as a social worker. My mom is a social worker in Hawaii, and she had $50 in her pocket at the time. And my mom educated all her siblings, six of them, that one person. And everyone then had traveled to different parts of the world also to do the same in her family. So I've watched courageous people taking the very difficult, most uncomfortable situations because they think it's going to help solve some of their problems, and help them become better people. So that's just really, I mean, I think if we reach out and look at our families, we'll find really great examples.
That's true. That's true. Well, can you share some light on what it looks like to come out on the other side? Because I mean, we know what it's like to be
Yeah,
very uncomfortable, but what does it really look like to come out on the other side?
loving yourself,
Mm.
finding peace, like being proud of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and just living life. I think to me, when you come out of there, is like experiencing life, and that's the ultimate joy for me. Like, you know, when I feel the warm air, when I even feel the rain, when I can smell, you know, being in the moment and really experiencing life and really living,
Mm-hmm.
that's like the ultimate joy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Darren, do you have anything else?
I do. I'm loving this. I'm so loving this. So partners, we talked about in the beginning. We talked about partners and that uncomfortableness with a partner and everything like that. Could you speak to that a little bit? I think that would help somebody that's listening today. I mean, I would think that somebody, because I think a lot of times partners have these uncomfortable conversations they want to have, you know, and we talk about communication and things like that. And how would you help that person, you know, with this concept
Yeah,
of
couples and communication when it's
Yeah.
talking about something very difficult. I say use my gut. It's always been, and when I work with couples, it's like, uh, for instance, in working with couples, I have said to them, when you're feeling that you don't want to talk to somebody, or you don't want to tell them about something, or you don't want to discuss a topic, that's the very thing that you need to discuss, right?
Okay.
So your wisdom is telling you, no, Marissa, talk about this with Tony right now. Talk about this with Tony right now. That's what's uncomfortable, is I don't want to do it, you know. And so it's, you know, just follow your heart, follow your wisdom. Like I said, it's all there. They're guiding us. This is what we need to do. And trusting in that relationship. The ultimate fear is, of course, rejection, but rejecting ourselves too. So being good with ourselves, that no matter what, you know, you forgive yourself and you accept yourself.
That's good. That's good. Well, I have nothing else. I thank you, Miss Marissa, for coming here, you know, and being on our podcast with us today and talking
You're
about leaning into
welcome.
discomfort, because everybody knows that it is uncomfortable.
Yes.
And that is all that we have for our 100% real life topic.